Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What with Dan and Julie. Today we've got Shiraz on, who is a dentist. Hi, Shiraz.
Hello, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, well,
All
thanks.
good. Glad it's a Thursday.
Oh, same here. Thursday's my Friday, so I'm delighted.
Oh, winning. Absolute result. So should we jump straight in then? What is it that you actually do, Shiraz?
For those that are listening, my name's Shiraz Khan. I'm a dental surgeon that works in the heart of London. I qualified in 2013 from the University of Birmingham, and it's not one of those professions that you kind of go into and decide to sidestep into accounting. It's pretty much your sort of lifelong choice. If you're you're trained to do teeth, that's pretty much all you're half good at anyway. So that's what I do.
So why did you go into it?
Really good question. I'm from a really working class background. So my father works at the airport. He's worked with various airlines, which is in a whole area of disarray at the moment. So hopefully he remains in his job for a while. But they've worked really, really hard to get me, my brother, and my sister through education. So we had this, how can you say, pressure or ambition is better. Ambition to seek further education, which wasn't available to my parents. And what had happened was we'd obviously decided that, I decided that something healthcare and science related was what I enjoyed. They were also the subject that I was quite good at school, but I wasn't so clear on what that would be. So I don't know if you've heard this stigma before, but Asian parents being Asian parents, go and do medicine, be a doctor.
Yeah.
It's quite a common theme in my ethnic subgroup. But I was kind of struck by the idea. Got the grades at A level. But when I applied through the normal UCAS, I didn't get in.
Oh, really?
So I didn't get in. So I was like, all right, fine. Take it on the chin. I'll tell you what, I'll go and do medical sciences, which is like a bachelor degree. And they often say to you, don't they, that one door closes, another opens. So I finished my bachelor's degree and then sat down and probably had a bit more confidence to say to my parents, listen, I know what you aspire for me to do. Just leave it with me. I'll choose something professional. And then I had a decision to make whether I was going to go through PhD work, lab-based research work, into sales with people like GSK, which I had a job offer, or whether I was going to go back and study and do medicine or something of that variant. So I did various work experiences, medicine, dentistry, optometry, physio. And the one that stuck out to me was dentistry, simply because you can change people's lives with such a happy emotion, a smile, right?
That's cool,
and the day that you qualify, the next day that you go and see someone, you're treating exactly what you trained to do. Whereas with medicine, like for example, if you qualify and you really want to be a heart surgeon, I mean, that's another 20 years before you're going to be the heart surgeon. So for me, being able to qualify and do what you were trained to do and be manually dexterous was really important.
After your bachelor's degree, what did you have to go back into university to study to become a dentist, or were you able to go straight into a dentistry and start practicing?
No. You did have to go through another degree. So I did my 3-year bachelor's, sitting there thinking, as you finish in your first degree, you're like, yeah, I know it, I get it. No, you don't. Like you so don't. And then I incidentally, I took a year out between the two degrees. I learned how to speak a bit Korean because I wanted to go teach English as a foreign language in Korea, for South Korea, obviously, for a couple of months. So I did have to go back, and then I had to do another 5-year program, which was dentistry.
So after you completed that and you were qualified as a dentist, how did you get started in the industry?
So there's a relatively well-versed pathway, which is called your dental foundation training. The best way to explain it is it's almost an apprenticeship in the sense that you will practices open up their practice, their patients to allow freshly qualified graduates to treat patients under their supervision. So in essence, you've got a fully qualified dentist that's looking after you. That has a lot of relative benefits and a lot of pitfalls, because obviously your habits or aspirations that you might have are quite heavily influenced by the type of person you're working with. And of course, as you know, in any industry, there are some aspirationals, there's some that are just lazy, there's some that just have certain outcomes that they want to achieve. So yeah, it's very touch and go. But by and large, that's a very well-versed training pathway. And I think there's something in the region of about 1,970, I think, 990 dentists qualify each year. They go through this national selection process to get awarded a place to do what's called the Dental Foundation training.
How do dentist practices actually work? Obviously, for doctors and GPs, they're governed by the NHS, but obviously for dentists, it's not. The NHS doesn't fund it all. So are they like private private practices that then take money from the NHS to support them? How does that sort of work?
Yeah. So the National Health Service. So first things first. Thank you, NHS, right, for all your hard
Absolutely,
work.
100%. Yeah,
they've been absolutely inspirational and a huge cornerstone to the UK's success in getting through this. In dentistry specifically, the way the NHS works is the National Health Service will give dental contracts to dental practices. Okay, so what that means is they will say, okay, here's X amount of money, and you will treat, on average, this many cases with that money. Now, that amount is accounted for by previous year's experience or whatever, but that heavily subsidizes the fees that the patients have to pay. So, for example, on the NHS, you might pay only £55 for a filling material, whereas in the normal cost of something like that might be £120, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then the other side of the coin is obviously there are private clinics which don't have any governmental backing or support because, quite frankly, there isn't indelible funds or insurmountable amounts of money that can just fund any practice that wish to start up. So private practices also do exist that don't have any affiliation with any NHS contracts.
So for you, once you're in there, once you're practicing as a dentist, what's an average day like?
I'll tell you what, it's changed over the last year and a half, 2 years, particularly over the last year. An average day will be a couple of patients that you see for a routine assessment, see what, catch up, see how they're doing, see how their teeth are doing, do they have any concerns. There'll usually be a mediocre, it's a big case, which is perhaps I'm doing a lot more. I work in central London on a street called Wimpole Street. So we're doing what are called full mouth rehabilitations, which basically means rebuilding everything from scratch.
Wow.
So anyone that's obviously listening that's considering a career in healthcare or dentistry, the education doesn't stop, something that you will hear the word thrown about quite a lot is called CPD, continuous professional development. And as a dentist, or dental professional in general, you're required to demonstrate your continuous professional development over your years. And a big part of that for me was I did a master's in what's called restorative dentistry, which basically means how to rebuild things when they've broken down and more advanced type work.
The medical sector is obviously constantly evolving and innovative things coming through. And like you said earlier, dentistry is, quite a powerful aspect of our lives. As obviously the smile is, everyone wants a good smile. How in the time you've been there have you seen the dentistry practice actually develop?
Yeah, I think one thing I can't give you the most insightful response, because I'm sure those that have been practicing since the 90s or 80s or even 70s probably see a much greater difference. But one thing that I'm aware of, even having only qualified in 2013, is people's awareness has gone up. And because of the sort of boom of the social media era, people's aspirations sometimes are a little bit false. So they'll be like, oh, I want to look like this. It's like, and it's like a 58-year-old man, for example, and he shows me like a 16-year-old girl's teeth. And it's like, I don't really know how to explain it. That won't fit. So I think there's been a slight disproportionation of your aspiration of what you want to achieve because of this social media generation. But also, I think there's just so much more information available, isn't there? I mean, I make a joke about it. Dr. Google knows best, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of people would jump on. I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. If you've got something going on you're not aware of, you'll type it into Google, and that dreaded 5-letter word will always come up, no matter what it is.
He always says, I'm dying. If I've got a cold or something, you type it in, you've got 2 hours to live.
Yes. And then a countdown starts on your screen. Like, oh, amazing. It's like, what's going on here, boys? Anyway.
But speaking of social media, you've built quite a presence for yourself on sort of Instagram and social media. How did you go about sort of starting that, and why did you decide to do it?
Yeah, I mean, do you know, because I've been asked this quite a lot, even within the dental sector. And it's quite funny because, frankly, I would say that I'm just my generation, as in of this era. A lot of people are just on social media anyway. So, you know, you get all these fancy courses or seminars about how you need to grow organic and this and whatever. This is how you get a follower. It's all a bit tosh, really, because now it started to become a manufactured thing. Whereas actually before, I was just posting what I was up to, what my life was, and people just seemed to take an interest in that at the time. So, yeah, of course, I'd done research into, you know, how to interact with followers, how to, optimize tagging and sharing, doing paid promotion posts with, and establishing business partners and all of that kind of stuff. But I think for me, it was kind of a relatively, it was just a relatively normal step. Whereas it seems like it's a bit more of a big deal now because there are those that are really into it, if that makes sense.
Do you think it's helped you maybe establish a bit more of a network within the industry, having that presence?
That's a great question, because I wouldn't say, okay, so I don't think it necessarily has brought me more patients per se, right? So in terms of direct access to me, I don't think that's changed hugely, if at all. Has it increased the awareness within the industry? Yes, probably. Because if I was to take a slice of my following, a lot of the people would probably be somewhere between 16 and 30, who are probably in the dental healthcare professions. And that makes up the majority of my followers. So yes, maybe within the profession, but not necessarily for patients, if that makes sense. But that's, again, because I didn't tailor what I was trying to do towards patients, if that makes sense. I wasn't trying to be a port of call for people to get, advice on teeth, whatever.
Yeah, it's sort of the way you mentioned that you were just already on there and you were already using social media, and we had a little look through and some of the things you've done, and we found your break dancing. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So breaking is obviously part of the Olympics for 2024. I'm sure you guys know. And it's something that I've been doing from, I'll tell you when, since 2007. And you know what you were talking about? I was at a seminar, it was last year now, but I was at a seminar about someone telling people about how you can stand out and all of this stuff and blah, 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 and you need to be individual and unique. You hear all these common cliche things. And I was like, the easiest way to be unique is just be you. And, at the beginning, I was like, I'm doing dentistry. I don't know how it's going to be seen. Maybe people will frown on it, blah, blah, blah. I just said to myself, you know what? This is who I am. And this is what I'm interested in. Yeah, it's probably a bit outlandish for some. But I'll tell you what, I bloody enjoy it, right?
Yeah, it's
language. Cool. I really, really enjoy it. Yeah, exactly. So I've been competing since about 2007. And yeah, I share it. I've traveled to some really wonderful locations, seen little towns in areas that you wouldn't even know exist, through a completely different vein, because obviously dentistry vein is obviously significantly different. And it's, if I was going to be honest, it's something, we all need a physical outlet to keep the endorphins up, to keep yourself fit and whatever. But I'll tell you something, it's something that really keeps you level pegging, because when you become, and this is a completely sincere note to all those that are striving to succeed or be successful, the more you try and aspire to be as good as you can be, the more you'll find yourself around with individuals that are also equally high achieving or achieving as you are.
100%.
And you start losing touch with reality and what's normal and what other people go through, and how fortunate and privileged we are to be in the positions that we are. And actually, when I get onto the dance floor with in a competition, I could be facing a 10-year-old, I could be facing a painter, I could be facing a policeman, I could be facing a barber. It wouldn't make a difference. There is no, just rights or height of society involved. It's purely about you bring your skills to the floor. Whoever wins, wins. With no ego involved. So in that way, I have to say I'm very, very fond of it, because, like I said, when you're achieving for whatever achievements, that you're striving for, sometimes you lose touch. And it's quite nice to put yourself back into, well, actually, these are all my people still, right?
No, absolutely. Obviously, the dentistry, I can imagine, is a fairly high-pressure job. You've got lots of people coming through and obviously dealing with customers in a different way. How important for you is it having that breaking outlet for your mental health in this industry?
Oh, man, I mean, it's incredible. So I'm not sure how much you know about this stuff, but one of the highest suicide rates, broken marriages rates, alcohol abuse rates is dentistry, right?
Really?
And yeah, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. And the reason is because you're dealing with such a high pressure area. Things can go wrong quite readily. And there's a financial element to running a business at the same time. If you're working solely within the NHS in a hospital environment, you get paid a salary and that's that. When there's an exchange of money involved, automatically there's an expectation. And that pressure can be really, really demanding. And having something that is totally off-piste from all of those things has been this probably biggest component, as well as faith, to why I feel like I have succeeded in trying to, push my career forwards. I'm still not quite there. I've still got a long way to go in this game, but I'm very, very, very happy with the achievements that have been made up until now. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. You're obviously still working on your career and you're doing very well. What personality traits would you say you've seen yourself that have helped you get here?
One that's completely applicable to breaking and to dentistry. Tenacity. You know what? When you get hit down, you need to be able to get up and say, shrug it off. All right, cool, it didn't go my way. I'll get it another day. Or what did I learn from it? That's the most important thing. I think, we're all critical of ourselves, aren't we? All the time. We're all critical of, what we want to achieve, what we should achieve, where we should be in our lives, what we should be doing and whatever. But if things don't go your way, I think it's about being humble enough to say to yourself, you know what? It wasn't my day today. How can I learn from that? How can I avoid that happening again? Critical appraisal, reflect on what's happened, implement a change for that to not happen again. And that tenacity to not get down every time is absolutely critical.
100%. And for you, what would be some of the biggest positives and opportunities you've had out of the...
I think there's quite a few. Dentistry is a hugely stressful but rewarding career in the sense of, well, first off, we're really, really lucky to be in a profession where it's going to remain stable, irrespective of whatever crisis happens. Dentistry will always be required. On a more personal note, being able to get someone out of pain or be able to restore someone's confidence and a smile is such a daily blessing that I can't explain, and something that you don't necessarily value when you first qualify. You go through all this academic rigor. You don't really know what it is you're necessarily going to be achieving at the end. And when you start giving people confidence again. People are extremely fearful of the dentist, and no one likes going to the dentist. It's not a secret. But once they've re-established confidence and they trust you, I mean, it's a hugely gratifying thing in itself. Other great things are the fact that I've been able to pursue further master's qualifications and really excel and push myself in terms of my knowledge and education. But also, I've been very, very fortunate to have been invited all around the world to present my work, present on lectures, give training to other dentists in various different countries. So there's been a lot that I can say that I'm really proud of. I won Best Young Dentist in 2017. I was a winner of the restorative category in the Aesthetic Dentistry Awards in 2019. There's lots of things that I've been able to achieve that honestly I didn't really know were possible, and I was ultimately massively humbled that I could achieve anyway. I didn't anticipate or expect that I would achieve those things, but long and behold, here we are.
That's quite cool. I didn't even realize there were so many potential awards you could get through dentistry.
Yeah, no, there's lots. I mean, awards are fantastic, and they're a great positive approach to how you can demonstrate your ability and your technique or whatever. I mean, if you've got loads of awards, it doesn't make you necessarily a great dentist. I mean, that's just putting it into context, obviously.
No, yeah.
But they are a great way that is a peer-reviewed, by the way. So it's not just some randoms that are choosing. It's dentists or qualified dentists, dental care professional practice owners that will put you forward for these things. So, it is a huge honor to have been involved, shortlisted. Now I'm even judging some of the awards that exist within the UK and abroad, actually, which is, again, a huge honor. Yeah, huge honor.
Yeah. And on the flip side of this, though, what would be some less favorable aspects of this industry?
I mean, I think I touched on them in one of the previous points about, the intensity of what we're doing is really, really high. If someone's coming to you, and this is just, and I don't mean this in an insincere way at all, but dentistry is born and bred out of the fact that, cavities in themselves are preventable. If you don't brush your teeth properly, you'll get problems. If you have too many sweets or too many fizzy drinks, you'll get problems. So in a sense, a lot of what we do is a preventable manner, which, by the way, makes a big part of how I try and treat patients. I'll always try and prevent before just jumping in with the drill. I'm not a lazy dentist, but I want to try and stop drilling into teeth, because as soon as you intervene, you're on a lifelong cycle for intervention, So I don't know. I think when people come to you with an issue, it's very, very easy to make that your problem. And actually, it's not your problem. You're just trying to be the solution. And that dynamic is something that perhaps people outside of the dental sector, perhaps people tuning into this podcast, may not understand. That dynamic is very, very intense, because you want to help. It might not go so well. And all of a sudden, you will be potentially held accountable. Whereas actually, I wasn't there when you were eating Skittles every day, every night for the last 6 months. You know what I mean? And yet it becomes our concern, our primary concern. So it's a difficult one. I mean, the element of dealing with high expectations when you're doing more aesthetic based treatments. People have a very high expectation. They want their smile to look like X, Y, Z. You are dealing with the front of the mouth. You're dealing with people's smiles. That is a happy emotion. If that's compromised because of you, that is a whole load of pressure. So yeah, I mean, it's extremely challenging. But you know what? My father always, if it's not challenging, it's not rewarding, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So I embrace the challenge. I'm confident enough to say it doesn't go right all the time. In fact, very rare does it go 100% correctly. But if there was something that you grew from or learned from, and the patient was understanding, or they thought it was great or whatever, you're always growing as a person and as a clinician. So they're really important features, but high pressure.
So at this point, we usually like to talk about salary expectations. So we go away, look for some average data, and then see if you agree with it. So the average income for a starting dentist looked to be around £30,000.
That's correct.
Obviously, with experience, it can go up from there. And then, you've got things like starting your own practices, and it's really up to you how much you earn from then on, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And for you, is there something that is not in the job description that you never expected to be doing now you're in this industry?
I never expected to be doing the amount of admin that I do on a daily basis. We kicked this call off at 6:17 after me being 2 minutes late. By the way, I was 2 minutes late, guys. Because I was doing admin. It's because I was doing admin. But no, I mean the amount of documentation that is required is exceedingly high. I mean, so as an example, I was treating a patient for 2 hours just now. So they were in for a 2-hour appointment. I was writing up their notes, documenting the photos, sending any prescriptions to any dental laboratories, and emailing any copies of any photos to the laboratories, which then took me another 1 hour and 10 minutes. So if you work out in terms of hours spent doing what you do compared to hours documenting, actually it's not a million miles off being like 40%. So actually your inverted commas activity, if you can call it that, is hugely reduced because of the fact that, we're having to document to such a high standard. So not everyone does that, by the way. Not everyone documents to the same standard, but I strive for, gold standards in everything I try and do. So the practice I work at, LCIED, which is in Wimpole Street, they have extremely high standards, and I will always try my best to document to those high standards.
And would you still go into this industry knowing everything you know now?
Absolutely. I think it's an incredible industry to be part of. Only do we have to look at the last year to see how many industries have been adversely affected. And whilst dentistry absolutely has been affected as well, it is always a job that will remain. And the stress and the long nights and the treatment planning and the writing the letters to patients and explaining what needs to be done, all of the rigor that goes into what you do is so rewarding when you achieve an outcome and that patient's like, I won't go anywhere else in my life. Things like those comments, they're not empty comments, and they're actually quite heartwarming. And again, I mean, maybe other people think of it differently. I mean, I have no ego attached to it. I don't think they're coming to see me. I just think they've had a great experience. And I'm really delighted that I was able to help them along that journey, as opposed to being like, oh, look at me. I'm not that way inclined at all. So.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Shiraz. You've it's been really interesting, and you seem like such a super positive guy as well.
Thanks, Shams. And I really appreciate you guys, finding me out and inviting me to your podcast. I wish you all the success with it. And, I hope we get to do something. We'll actually see each other in the future someday.
Yes,
absolutely.
That'd be really cool. Yeah.
Where can people find you, your dentistry, and your breaking?
Yeah, cool. So multiple platforms. So if you want to check me out on Instagram for me and my life, it's at Shiraz Carnage, ShirazKhanage. If you want to see teeth, you can type at Dr. Shiraz Khan. I've got my own website for patients who want to see the sort of work I do, which is www.drshirazkhan.com. And all my breaking and all that is on all the social media outlets anyway. So, yeah, thank you so much for your time and keep doing what you're doing, guys. I think it's a great initiative, and hopefully we'll get lots of prosperity from it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Brilliant.